How to go from rank 1 to rank 100 in Powerplay with this one simple trick. It sounds like the most clickbaity possible start for a video, but it is true and it works. Let's talk about how that can work for you as well. It all starts with being at a station which sells gold or palladium or some other kind of high value commodity, which gold and palladium tend to be the most practical and common. Gold is generally better because it's effectively easier to use in the next steps of the process we're going to just discuss in a moment. Palladium is slightly better if you can use it, but there's a number of situations where you can't use it. So let's go with gold, since it's almost as good and it is much easier to work with. So we buy gold, and we can buy gold just about anywhere in the galaxy for the purpose of this exercise. Then we get out of the station, and what we're going to go to do next is we're going to look for a system, or rather specifically a station with a large pad, which is in the infrastructure failure state. And try not crashing out of the pad while we get out of here. And I've already set a course. You can look this up on Inara, or like you can even look in-game. Over in-game, the sort of game overlay of the galaxy map won't necessarily show you the state of individual station systems. And now that I'm laid in, I actually think this will have to be 2 jumps. So we'll do 2 jumps over there. And what we're basically going to do in this next step of the process is we're going to rebase the cost of the gold which we just bought. We bought the gold at market prices in volume. We're going to an infrastructure failure station which has absolutely abysmally low prices. And so long as the station that we go to does not demand gold, what we can do there is we can sell the gold, make a humongous loss in the process, and then immediately rebuy the gold, which will now show in the supply side of that market at a much, much lower price. This much lower price is what will then enable the next step in this process, which we'll get to in a moment as well. So again, we're looking for an infrastructure failure station which has no demand for the metals that we're carrying. So be it gold or palladium, we want a station that does not demand it, so that when we sell it, it will show up in the supply instead of being consumed. This is the main reason why gold is better compared to palladium, because palladium is more often demanded by a number of economies, whereas gold is not commonly demanded and can be used at a number of places that palladium cannot. So again, we're going to this infrastructure failure station, which should be Lisberger Vision. And the reason we're doing this is because the next step in the process of what we're doing here is to go for what is called large profit sales in an acquisition system. You can do this also in a reinforcement system, but reinforcement systems have a 35% penalty to merits that are gained, and as a result are a lot more inefficient if the goal of what you're doing here is just to earn merits as quickly as possible, which candidly was my goal, since I started this whole process, not necessarily because I wanted to get involved in like global galactic politics, but because I wanted to try out Concord cannons. And Concord cannons are only available in Powerplay 2.0, and as a result, require me to rank up with one of the powers. I picked Liron Grui, it's an independent power that's close to the Pleiades, and once I started this, I kind of figured that it was actually something quite interesting, and so I said, well, okay, if I'm so quickly at rank 50, which is what is necessary for Concord cannons, then I can probably do this and go all the way to 100 very, very quickly, which is effectively what happened. And by the way, thank you to all the folks who shall remain unnamed, who helped me understand how this all works and explained and guided me through the process of all the steps necessary to enable this particular outcome. So, as I mentioned, the next stop is to dock at this station where we're going to be rebasing the cost of the gold that we bought. Some people also call this process washing. as in laundering the price base of a particular stock of materials. And the reason we do this at a station instead of at a carrier is that the profit that you earn in selling goods that were bought at a carrier market does not count for the purposes of this exercise. So you cannot use the market in a personal carrier to do this. You have to use a market as a station. But if you do use the market as a station, it works very, very well. So as we enter a station, the only thing we're going to be doing here is selling and rebuying the gold. In the meanwhile, we're going to be looking for a system that is in an acquisition state and possibly also like not already in full control, so we don't have penalties, and it actually helps our power, assuming that we care about that, which why not? I picked this high ID sector CLX B11. I've already confirmed that there is a large station in here. Well, at least that's what Inara told me. We'll find in a moment if Inara is correct or not. So I'm going to plot a course here, which is where we're going to go in next after we have done the step of the process that I just described here. So here, we go to the commodity market, go on the sell, you should see our gold. You see there's basically no demand for it, so we're going to sell it all at a loss. That's fine. And then we're going to go back to the buy side. See the gold appeared on the buy side because there was no demand. So we can rebuy it, and we're rebuying it at effectively an extraordinarily low price of less than 5,000 credits per unit, which for gold is practically nothing. And with that, we have rebased the cost. Now, the gold in our hold has been bought nominally for just 5,000 credits. So when we will sell it, the profit on that gold is going to be extremely high, assuming we sell it at a system that has like a good state or even just a no state compared to the infrastructure fail state that we are dealing with. We've already set a course, so that's where we're going to be next. Obviously, you want to be sure that the station, that the system you're going to has a large pad. If you're using a large ship like the Panther, if you want to go to a system that has only a outpost, obviously you will need to be using a Type 8 or a Python or a medium-sized ship. That goes without saying. What are we going to do when we get there? What we're going to do when we get there is, and this is not the fun part, because like many of these things are not necessarily that fun, but what we're going to do when we get there is we're going to be selling these commodities. We're going to be selling this gold 1 ton at a time. The reason we sell the gold 1 ton at a time is because the merits we get are incredibly higher if we do that. When I was doing this earlier at a different system, I was getting 80 merits per ton per acquisition if I sold a single ton. If I sold as many as 2 tons, I only got something like 120 credits or something, 120 merits or something like that. Like, there's incredible penalties, and like selling your entire hold only resulted in like something like 1,000 merits or possibly even less. So very, very, very inefficient. Selling one at a time obviously is tedious, takes an enormous amount of time to do manually, but it's possible, and it's still candidly the fastest way to get merits. 80 merits per ton with 1,200 Panther Clipper load is 96,000 merits. 96,000 merits. And a whole load of a Panther Clipper can be sold manually using the 1 ton per trade method, in my experience, in about 1 hour and 15 or 1 hour and 20 minutes once you're at the dock selling them one by one, which obviously is a non-indifferent amount of time. But it results in something like, again, if I did my math correctly, 80,000 merits per hour. 80K merits per hour. Short of the Soontil Relics boom that just happened and is not always present in the game, and it is not present now in the game, we can talk about that in a moment. This is, as I understand it, by far the fastest way to get merits in the game, bar none. And it has allowed me to effectively rank up to, as I can show you, level 100 in effectively a day. I had a small amount of merits like coming into this cycle, but all of this is something I just did entirely today. And I've tried many other things before I tried this. I tried laser mining platinum, but that is very situational, has a bunch of conditions and circumstances. And by the way, I also am not a particularly efficient or good miner, so there's that too. I tried bounty hunting in the CG system, even in a wing, which was kind of a lot more fun than what we're about to do here, but nowhere near even remotely as efficient. I tried trading rare commodities from Liesti, which has 2 rare commodities on sale, and which now that the Sunktil relics are not on Hyperboom, as we would call it, is probably the most effective rare trade option. But even that didn't even come close to the amount of merits that can be earned in this way. And while we're talking, I'll tell you about the Sunktil relics. Sunktil relics, which are available in Anguri, like this method is only really viable when the state of the system is a combination of either investment or boom, which it is in this case, and civil liberty, and or expansion. When you have all 3 states, so expansion, civil liberty, and investment, that's when you have the maximum demand, and that's when Sunktil relics become by far the best way to get merits in the game. When that is not the case, when you only have 1 out of 3, then this is no longer the case. And even though this is probably a distant second method to get merits compared to what I'm just about to show you. So now we docked, and as you can see, when we go and sell our gold here, unless I did something wrong, but I don't think I did, our profit per ton is going to be very high, in the range of 45 to 50,000 credit, 46 in this case. So I sell 1 ton and 80 merits. Again, I sell 1 ton. I should do it with a keyboard because it's actually faster. Boom, another 80 merits. I'll do it with a keyboard, which is faster, especially if you hold up and left at the same time. It's a little trick to do this faster. Sell it. Another 80 merits. If I sell 2, as I was telling you earlier, diminishing return kicks in, and the 2 credits sold, instead of being 160, are only 112. So a humongous penalty for selling more than 1. If I sell all of them, which for the sake of argument, I'm going to show you now, because we don't want to do this and keep this video to like, make this video like an hour and 20 minutes long. If I sell all of this, I only get 2,900 merits. And by the way, this might rank me up. This 2,900 could be 96,000 if we had sold them individually. So roughly almost like 3% of the total amount of what it takes to sell them individually. Now, some commanders out there in community, I hear rumors of, have been taking to using macros to sell this 1 at a time, considering the repetitive nature of this. Now, the use of macros in game, like Elite Dangerous, is very much a gray area, because there are some macros that historically Frontier developments have said they were fine with, which is macros that set your pips, your power pips to different settings. Historically, there was a post somewhere that said that Frontier was fine with pip macros, since they are so harmless and sort of like handy. And then there was a response from a query to customer support with regards to what was the official stance of Frontier developments. And the official stance, as reported by that response to a specific query, was that Frontier allows 1 action per key press as their basis for macro usage. Now, that is horrifically confusing, because what is an action? Is it just the press of a button? Because if it is the press of a button, then macros would be entirely banned, and these would just be called key remapping. So it's hard to interpret 1 action as just 1 key press, because then you basically would have said, we ban all macros, the only thing we allow is remapping of keys. But if you accept that one action is something more involved than just one key press rebinding, then it's where it becomes all gray. So because then it's the question is, what is an action? Is an action sort of like putting 4 pips to sys? Is that an action? Well, according to what Frontier tolerates, at least from historical common law, this would be the case. They historically have tolerated pip macros. The PvP community uses it extensively. The AX community uses them extensively. The concept of setting pips to a particular setting is something that has broadly been tolerated in the game. When it comes to trading and other kind of activities, we're in uncharted territory there. Like, nobody has really tested the concept of, like, is selling my Panther load as a whole one action? Is it still one action if I break it down so that it's sold 1 ton at a time? You're getting into gray area there. I mean, I can tell you it is something that is happening in the game right now. I think all powers, or almost all powers, are using it. And whether it will remain in the game or not, we shall see. If you ask me, the simplest solution to deal with this, also because it is kindly and excruciatingly boring, if the most efficient way to get merits would be to just get rid entirely of the scaling curve and make it so that selling 100 tons of something for, let's say, 1,000 credits of profit would be exactly the same as selling 1 ton for 10 credits of profit. But that's not how things work in the game, and as a result, this is currently the fastest way to earn merits in Powerplay 2.0, and it is tried and tested by yours truly mechanism to achieve rank 100 in 1 day. How do you earn merits? What is your stance on the 1 ton trading mechanism that I just explained? Will you use it? How do you feel about the potential implication of using macros on the system? Let me know in the comments below, and glory to mankind. Commander Mechan, over and out.